Good evening. My name is Marion McIntosh, and tonight I'm going to give my official endorsement for the presidency of the United States of America. But first, I want to talk to you briefly about the importance of voting. You see, we need to vote every single time the polls open up. Every 4 years, we get so infatuated with presidential elections that oftentimes we forget about the midterm elections and even elections in our state and local municipalities. You see, what happens here at home can be far more consequential in our daily lives than anything going on in Washington. So please, learn the issues. Get to know who your local candidates are. Find out what these amendments mean. Read them before you get to the polls. If you don't understand something, call somebody. Call me. I'll be glad to tell you who I think you should vote for. But if not me, call someone that you trust. But participate. Because whether you show up at the polls or not, decisions are going to be made on your behalf. And they can affect everything from the economy to the amount of taxes that you pay. So please vote every single time the polls open up. For African Americans, it should be especially crucial for us to vote given the high price that we pay. If you're not going to do it for you, do it for Martin, do it for Malcolm, do it for Medgar, do it for Addie Mae Collins, do it for Cal Robinson, do it for Cynthia Wesley and Denise McNair, who I suspect will be voting on Tuesday, November 6th, had their Sunday school class not gotten interrupted by that violent and vicious explosion. Do it for those children who had to fight those fierce water hoses and bulldogs down in Birmingham. Do it for those folks that got beat down in Selma. Do it for the folks that got beat up for the sit-ins and got arrested, for sitting at the front of the bus. Do it for all the people that gave their lives so that in 2008 we could elect our first black president. You see, there are entities at work in this country who are looking to undo all that, who are looking to take away those rights that have been earned. Over 30 plus Republican-led legislatures have implemented these voter ID laws designed to disenfranchise minorities in this country, particularly blacks and Latinos, and suppress voter turnout. And when people don't show up to the polls, arguably bad things happen. We have one of the worst rated Congresses in American history that was elected during the 2010 midterm elections. In 2008, President Obama's vote total was 25 million more than Republicans in 2010, House Republicans. Now, what does that tell you? That tells you that the people who showed up in 2008 stayed at home in 2010. And look at what the result of that was. We had fights over rudimentary debt ceiling types of debates. We have laws that can't get passed, can't even get a vote. Laws that could bring our economy back faster and bring unemployment down more rapidly. But I suspect implementing new jobs and lowering unemployment is probably not good for anybody who wants to unseat President Obama. So my personal opinion is that the agenda is to keep those numbers in check so that President Obama can be blamed for a lot of what's wrong in this country. And so, I don't want to bore you too much with that, but vote every single time the polls open up. And that having been said, and I know you want me to go ahead and get to my endorsement, but for the first time, in 2008, for the very first time, I voted for somebody. And let me tell you what I mean by that. In 2000, I voted in the presidential election. In 2004, I voted in the presidential election. But I didn't vote for somebody. You see, in 2000, I voted for Vice President Al Gore. He was a Democrat. I'm a Democrat. So, I thought he'd be a good guy to lead the country after being vice president under President Clinton for 8 years. But I wasn't passionate about Al Gore becoming president. I wasn't voting for Al Gore so much as I was voting against George W. Bush. In 2004, I was a supporter of Howard Dean. I was a supporter of John Edwards. And then finally, John Kerry won. So I said, I guess I'll support him. I might have bought a T-shirt, a sign or something, a lapel pin. But I wasn't voting for John Kerry. I was voting against George W. Bush. But President Obama, for the first time in my life during the presidential election, I voted for somebody. You see, it's a difference when you vote for somebody versus when you're voting against somebody. And I've always felt like it was a much more powerful thing when you voted for somebody. You see, you got a lot of people in this country who are voting against President Obama. But I'm telling you right now, I'm voting for President Obama. I'm not voting against Mitt Romney. I don't think Mitt Romney is just a terrible guy. I just don't believe he's qualified to lead this country. He's been on both sides of too many issues. I don't feel like he has a core value structure. One thing I will say about George W. Bush, and I don't care what anybody says, I knew where George Bush stood on the issues. I might not have agreed with him, but I understood who he was and what he meant. And I felt like he was a man who said what he meant, and he meant what he said. And as terrible as this economy was coming out of the Bush administration, George W. Bush is a guy who had a core. And I can understand why Republicans voted for George Bush. They didn't have to vote against Al Gore or John Kerry. They voted for somebody. Well, I can tell you on Tuesday, November 6th, I'm not voting against Mitt Romney. I'm voting for President Obama. Here's a guy who came into office and we were losing 800,000 jobs a month. Now unemployment's at the lowest levels since he took office. There are Republicans voting on Tuesday, November 6th, who are voting to end their own health care because they're voting against President Obama and against some of their own best interest. But I'm not voting against anyone. I can tell you all kind of bad stuff about Mitt Romney, but I'm not going to do that tonight. I'm voting for President Obama. Someone who supports fair pay and equal pay for women. Someone who supports health care for all. Someone who supports a fair tax structure that asks the wealthiest Americans to pay just a little bit more, in addition to cutting some of the spending and refining some of our programs. So on Tuesday, November 6th, I'm not going to ask you to vote against Mitt Romney. I'm asking you to vote for President Barack Obama. Thank you, and good night, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.